that it is, when you look at the movements that are taking place in many African countries and the protests, and when you look at the protests that have happened across the Arab world, there is a range of music. It's not just hip-hop. There's electronic music, and there's different kinds of music. But I think that as a sort of voice of clarity and a voice of leadership, and sort of expressing in words some of the things that the movements are putting forward, some of the demands, some of the ideas, and providing leadership, I think that definitely rap music has shown itself to do that. The fact that, that the Egyptian revolution, the Tunisian revolution, so many of these were centered around rap musicians, and who would perform at rallies, who, movements that were prior to these revolutions were quite underground, but through the rallies and through the demonstrations, having them perform in front of, all of the huge crowds, these songs gradually came to the point where not only people would chant them at demonstrations, but people would start singing songs from Tunisia in Egypt, and like a sort of domino effect, people were hearing about the music and the politics, and the music and the politics kind of spread together.
It's interesting that people were drawing across space from country to country. I think they were also mining, in some cases, across time. In Egypt, the hip-hop played a big role in documenting what was happening, but people who were in Tahrir Square and Alexandria and so on also reported that a lot of the soundtrack of what was being heard there and what was stirring people and bringing people out was the old classic Egyptian music that went back before Mubarak's time, before Sadat's time, going back and saying, look, we're dealing with this government and these problems right now, but the music we're listening to goes back to Abdel Halim Hafez and Kulthum, the music of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, which evokes another a notion of nationhood. And I wonder if you've observed people drawing also historically on music with similar power in other places.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that in Cuba, in Senegal, in all of these places, people draw back specifically to oral traditions. And in Cuba, they draw on the tradition of rumba, which has in itself a very oral tradition of commenting, of social commentary, where